podršci albanskom separatizmu i terorizmu na Kosovu i Metohiji posebno se angažovala albanska emigracija u zemljama Zapadne Europe i SAD. U Americi je 86. godine još osnovano Albansko-američka civilna liga pod predsjedništvom uticajnog kongresmena Josepha DioGuardija, čiji je zadatak bio da aktivno lobira na Capitol Hillu za zahteve i ciljeve kosovskih Albanaca. Aktivnim lobiranjem Liga je otvorila put kosovsko-metohijskim separatistima za zvanične kontakte u Američkom senatu i Kongresu. U svakom slučaju, Albansko-američka civilna liga je u mnogome doprinela sistematskom širenju antisrpskog raspoloženja i satanizaciji srpskog naroda u američkoj javnosti.
Hello, I'm former Congressman Joe DioGuardi, the president of the Albanian American Civic League. You have just heard former Serbian dictator and indicted war criminal Slobodan Milosevic misrepresent our important work in Washington to free Kosovo and all Albanians from the tyranny of his regime.
We have
Mr.
to go
DioGuardi, you made some very inflammatory statements here.
I did, because Mr. Milosevic has been very inflammatory against the Albanians, and someone has to speak up against them. And thank God we have the Congress of the United States to stand up for oppressed people, including the Kosovars.
Yes, but Mr. DioGuardi, you need to be accurate when you're a witness, especially when you're a lobbyist for a group.
I'm an ethnic Albanian.
Now you have to be accurate.
I'm an ethnic Albanian. I'm an ethnic Albanian. I'm the president of the Albanian American Civic League and the Albanian American Foundation, and I resent those intonations. I don't question Congresswoman Bentley's motives. She's proud of her ethnic background the way I'm proud of mine, and I applaud her that she could stand up for them the way I stand up for Albanians, and I want to see freedom-loving people everywhere treated the way they're supposed to be treated.
Emri I Joseph DioGuardit në Amerikë është I lidhur ngushtë me luftën e tij çerek-shekullore për ardhmërinë e fatin e kombit shqiptar në mijëvjeçarin e ri. Asnjë individ shqiptar nga diaspora e Amerikës, pas luftës së dytë botërore e kohës së Nolit e Konicës, nuk ka bërë më shumë se sa zoti DioGuardi për çështjen kombëtare shqiptare. Ai bashkë me bashkëshorten e tij, zonjën Shirley Cloyes DioGuardi, dha një kontribut të jashtëzakonshëm për të drejtat kombëtare të shqiptarëve në Ballkan, dhe sipas një ankete të gjerë të televizionit të shqiptarëve të Amerikës, u përzgjodh për dhënien e titullit Thank You në emër të shikuesve të televizionit të diasporës shqiptare. Por kush është Joseph DioGuardi? Ai lindi në Bronx të New Yorkut nga një baba arbëresht dhe një nën italiane. Baba I tij erdhi në Amerikë në një fshat arbëresht italisë, I banuar me shqiptar të shpëngulur nga Shqipëria. Në feminin e tij, si një emigrant, e kuptoi se diçka tek ai dhe familja e tij ishte ndryshe nga italianët e tjerë. Ai ndjeu kushtrimin e gjakut të tij të shprishur dhe u shndrua në një misionar të çështjes shqiptare. Kështu, në nëntor të vitit 1984, shqiptaro-amerikani Joseph DioGuardi, antar I Partisë Republikane, u zgjodh antar I Kongresit Amerikan në një distrikt të shtetit të New Yorkut, duke nisur kështu karrierën politike në shërbim të Amerikës dhe të çështjes kombëtare shqiptare në Ballkan. Në atë kohë, vetëm gati 12 kongresmen, kujton ai, nga 435 dinin diçka mbi situatën në Kosovë dhe se shumica e Kosovës ishte shqiptare. Por që mandati I dytë si antar I Kongresit Amerikan që I dha DioGuardit dhe çështjes së Kosovës një shtysë të madhe për të edukuar median amerikane për më shumë mbështetje në Kongres dhe në Senat për çka ndodhte me të vërtetë me shqiptarët e Ballkanit nën Jugosllavi e në veçanti në Kosovën martire. Me DioGuardin antar të Kongresit Amerikan, fillon një etapë e re e historisë së shqiptarëve të Amerikës për të sensibilizuar qeverinë dhe legjislativin amerikan, për të prezantuar, përfaqësuar, ndihmuar për zgjidhjen e çështjes kombëtare të shqiptarëve në Ballkan. E si pikënisje, shërbeu një fest familjare e celebrimit të 45 vjetorit të lindjes së tij, kur komuniteti shqiptar I New Yorkut, kryesisht nga Kosova, që e mbështetën zgjedhjen e tij në Kongres, I kërkoi të lobonte për Kosovën. e DioGuardi me aksionin e tij prej adetare shqiptarit të madh, krijoi një hapësirë miqësie për të gjithë shqiptarët si komb me kombin amerikan. Ai kontaktoi presidentet amerikan me liderë shtetesh në Amerikën në botë, promovoi liderët shqiptar të Kosovës, të Malit të Zi, të Luginës së Preshevës, të Maqedonisë në shtetin amerikan, në Kongres dhe në Senat, si dhe veprimtarët e çështjes çame. Ai realizoi 10 rezoluta për çështjen kombëtare shqiptare, e në veçanti për Kosovën, në bashkëpunim me anëtarët të Senatit dhe Kongresit amerikan që lobuan krahti. Promovoi UÇK-n si një ushtri çlirimtare. Realizoi 10 protesta paqësore para se lidhje MNZ të botës në Amerikë e në Evropë dhe shumë veprimtari në dobi të shqiptarëve. Vëzhgoi nga afër e dokumentoi barbarinë dhe pasojat e regjimit militar serb në Kosovë, duke bërë më të lehtë vendimin amerikan për t'i ardhur në ndihmë shqiptarëve të Kosovës. Vetëm me Kosovën shtet pavarur do të ketë paqe në Ballkan. Kjo ishte motua e punës së tij dhe Kosova u bë e pavarur, fal edhe pathyeshmërisë, guximit, vendosmërisë për të bërë diçka për çështjen kombëtare shqiptare nga DioGuardi. Dhe puna e tij për çështjen kombëtare shqiptare vazhdon. Antarësimi i Shqipërisë dhe Kosovës në BE, antarësimi i Kosovës në NATO, zgjidhja e çështjes së çamërisë dhe konsolidimi i të drejtave të shqiptarëve në Maqedoni, Preshevë dhe Mal të Zi janë linjat e punës në vijim në të ardhmen. Shqiptarët e Amerikës kanë fatin e madh të kenë mes tyre DioGuardin, këtë figurë kombëtare që me vullnetarizmin e tij e bëri çështjen kombëtare shqiptare më të dëgjuar në Amerikë dhe në jetën politike amerikane dhe në botë, dhe lidhjen qytetare shqiptaro-amerikane një organizatë të pavarur me vlera kombëtare për të mirën e kombit shqiptar. Çështja shqiptare ende nuk është mbyllur. Dhe tani, 75 vjeçar, ai ende nuk del në pension deri sa ajo të zgjidhet. Ndaj dhe televizioni shqiptarëve të Amerikës uron, u bësh 100 vjet, Joe, dhe thank you.
Shikues të nderuar, televizion shqiptarë të Amerikës, pra keni ndjekur një spot që është kushtuar zotit Joseph DioGuardi, ish kongresmen në Kongresin Amerikan, por ajo që ka rëndësi është fituesi i çmimit të Thank You. Ky është fillim të emisionit, shikues të nderuar, unë them se Joseph DioGuardi pra renditet mbas Nolit dhe Konicës për aktivitetin e tij të madh shqiptar që ka bërë për gjitha trevat shqiptare dhe veçanërisht për Kosovën. Do të kemi rastin gjatë bisedës me të që neve të mësojmë këto. Mr. Joseph DioGuardi, thank you very much for coming here.
Well, thank you for taking the time and doing something so creative as getting the people to vote. This is like a popular referendum, which is very important in America, to hear from the people what they think. And I'm proud that people would remember the work that I did as a congressman and then later as a citizen to make sure that my father's history, an Albanian born in Italy.
Të gjithë shqiptarët e dinë se kush është Joseph DioGuardi, por ishte mirë sikur të dinim atë origjinën më mirë për familjen tuaj.
Well, you know, America is a great country and many people come here for opportunity to find work. My father came in 1929, right when the worst depression was in America. He was only 15 years. Why did he come? Because they were starving. In his Kotundi Greci, even the food you couldn't find. And he told me he had female cousins, Kujina, that they had to send to the convent in the church because they could not feed the big families. So he comes to America, but you know, Albanian people are very disciplined. They had a farm in Greci. They made wine. They made cheese. They even grew many vegetables, nuts, and they brought it down once a week to sell to the Italian people. They had the very high mountain, and they would come down once a week, my father said, with the donkey, and they would have the market, and they would sell what they made. So my father worked very hard because my grandmother was very tough, and he learned a lot. When he came to America, he was very clever.
Cili vit ka ardhur në Amerikë?
1929. And he
came to one of the poorest places in New York, Harlem, where the black people were. And that's where he was living in the beginning. But he saw that they liked collard greens, mustard greens, kale, all the vegetables. And from the farming experience, he said, maybe I have to do this. And he found where the farmer's market was to buy. And he brought it, put it on the street, and he's selling 1930, 1931. By 1934, he had his own store. He's only 21, 22, nice, dressed like a nice suit. And my mother met him in 1935. She was from Italy, Bari, on the east coast of Italy. Dad was from near Naples. Katundi Greci is an Albanian-speaking village near Naples on the west coast of Italy. And they came and worked together. First, he met her here. He met her not in Italy, in America. And my mother said that he had his own car. He was the only one in the Bronx with a radio in the car, 1935. And he was dressed very well. So he learned very fast that if you work hard, then you can do things for yourself and your family. So my family in the Bronx was not poor, but lower middle class. We all had to work. And when I was born in 1940, Dad had a market, a food market, vegetables, groceries, meat. Now, Mom and Dad worked together. 1948, 49, I'm only 8, 9 years old, but already I'm delivering the orders. I'm working with Mom and Dad. They taught me young how to be productive. That was a good word for my father, produce. He said, Joe, if you don't produce, your boss cannot pay you. If you produce, then you can make more money. So I'm proud that my family came here with no education and no money, but they were able to see America gives you the opportunity, no matter who you are, if you, my father used to say, you have to think big and work hard.
Thank you. Para se të fillojmë nga politika, ju keni kaluar dhe fëmijërinë. Ju folet pak, po mendoj të flasim akoma për fëmijërinë tuaj. Pasi kemi parë disa filma të cilët flasin ato, po më mirë është kur flisni juve.
We lived in the Bronx, and we lived with my father's family, and they were from Greci. My grandmother lived on the same floor in the apartment building that I was in, and I had opportunity when I was younger to speak to her in Albanian. If I was to come from school, maybe I'm now, let's see, 11, 12, she was home, and she would ask me, Qëdo, qumsht? So I'm learning, I was learning the Albanian language from my grandmother. And many times when I walked into their apartment, my grandmother would speak to my aunt in Albanian, and I knew some Italian more than Albanian, so they would say in Albanian when I came in, because I was always listening, "Mstoj mëzgje." Don't say anything like I was there. So we did speak Albanian, but when we moved to Westchester, we didn't speak with my Albanian family anymore, so I don't know how to speak fluently Albanian, but I understand the words, hunda, lesh, grika, so I understand these words. I'm very proud that my family had this subculture from our Bresh, the Italian people, because in my neighborhood was Italian Americans, and when I was small, I thought maybe my father was talking a dialect of Italian. I didn't know it was a separate language. I began to suspect it was, but when I got to Congress and they found my father speaking Albanian, some Albanians from Yugoslavia, that's when I said, oh my God, here's my father speaking to people from Yugoslavia, not from Italy, not from America. It's a different language. So I had this unusual upbringing. So I remember that, and I remember working from when I was maybe 8, 9, 10, 11, 1949, 1950, 51, with the orders, delivering the orders, then behind the counter, taking the money for the food, and then putting the groceries on the shelf. So I had my responsibilities. And it was important for me later on, because when you have this kind of training, when you are young, you build your confidence. when you see different kinds of people in a store, black, white, Jewish, Italian, it makes you comfortable with all kinds of people. And this later on was a big benefit to me when I ran for Congress, because I had to greet all kinds of people, and I was very comfortable doing that.
Zoti DioGuardi, ju keni jetuar në Bronx. Në atë periudhë ka pasur edhe probleme kriminale. Mund na sillni pak atë jetën, si e kujtoni juve Bronxin në ato vite?
Yes, I do, and it's a good question because my mother knew that the neighborhood was not so good because we had mafia people in the neighborhood. And we had gangs, young people that wanted to become like mafia. So when I was 8 years old, I had to go take the accordion lessons. You know, when you're Italian, they like the accordion. My grandfathers, my mother's side, they always liked the accordion. My father did too. So that kept me off the streets. And then they gave me a good education in the Catholic schools. When you have the nuns in the Catholic schools, you have a lot of homework. So when I came home from school, I went to the store for maybe 1 or 2 hours. Then I came home to practice the accordion. Then I had to do my homework. There was no time to get in trouble with any bad criminals. So my parents were very smart to keep me busy.
Cili është edukimi juaj shkollor?
Very good education. I was the first in my family to go to high school. My mother had 8th grade education here. My father had 4th grade education in Italy. But I'm the first to go to high school and then to college. And I had good education in a very tough school, the Jesuits, for 8 years. The high school and then Fordham University. Fordham Prep, Fordham University. In fact, this year, I'm going to be put in the Hall of Honor with the Jesuits at Fordham on November the 20th. And I'm going to have many Albanians there too. So this was a good thing. Now, you know, the Pope is a Jesuit, first one in history. Jesuits take 13 years before they become a priest. Very difficult. You need 2 PhDs, and they are intellectuals, the best. I learned a lot in that school. So I'm very happy to have a good education.
Zoti DioGuardi, në çfarë thana keni hyrë në politikë? E pëlqenit politikën apo keni hyrë rastësisht?
I decided to do something in politics when I was successful in business. I spent 22 years as a certified public accountant. I am the first accountant, first CPA, certified public accountant, to be elected to the U.S. Congress, House or Senate, in history. Mm-hmm. And I went from 1962 to 1984 in the world's largest accounting firm at that time. So I have very good training as an accountant, business. But when I was 44, I said to myself, I need to do something more important with my life. I was very active in the community. I was working on many charitable things. I brought a lot of business to my firm because I was in the community giving speeches. And people used to say, you know, you have the personality, you should run for mayor. You should run for the city council. And then one day, the big businessmen in Westchester County, one of them said to me, we have this congressman, but he's not good for us. Maybe you should run. It took 2 years for me to think about that. And I said, you know, I'm going to leave this firm, but I'm going to leave with the idea that I want to do something very important, big, to run for the U.S. Congress. Some people laughed. You're an accountant. How can you run for Congress? You're not involved in politics. But you see, my optimism from my parents and my confidence is you could do anything you want to do if you work hard and if you use your mind and you're clever, like George Castriati. He was very clever. He beat the army at 250,000 with only 10,000. And I did it, and people said, when they met me, you know, you seem to know a lot about different kinds of people. And little by little, when I brought my parents on both arms, immigrants from Italy, people were liking me. They used to ask, well, some people would say, what is your party? I said, I'm not going to tell you my party. Why do you want to know my party? Know about me. Know my family. Look what I accomplished in business, and here's what I want to do for you. So the party is not important. And I won in a very difficult election on November 1984. And I became a congressman January 1985.
U ka një pyetje tjetër por bas muzikës. Ju duhet të zgjidhni 3 këngë tani.
Yeah. They know that I am Arbresh. And we had a wonderful celebration in Michigan, as you know, with Morris Natsulai and the community. And the Civic League has a chapter here with Morris Natsulai and Zeph. And I think one song I would put is the Arbresh song, Lule Lule, the flowers. I think it's a beautiful song.
First?
The second song I would pick is the song that came from Shkurta Feza when I brought Tom Lantos to meet Rogova and to challenge Milosevic at the Grand Hotel in May of 1990. And I said, when they opened the window, thousands of Albanians came to see me. And I said, Moski Frike Seke Jemte Namarik, the words of Fanoli. And Shkurta Feza made that into a song. Moski Frike Seke Jemte Namarik. So I would like that song for Kosovo. And I think for America, I think there's a beautiful song, Oh Beautiful for Spacious Skies, America the Beautiful.
Zoti DioGuardi, në cilin vit juve keni hyrë në Kongresin Amerikan dhe si jeni ndjerë kur keni shkuar për herë të parë në Kongres?
It was an amazing experience, but you know, when you work hard for something, I left the business, the firm I was with after 22 years, in April 1984. I was elected in November 1984, but for the year before that, 1983, I worked very hard to get around this because this district was very large, had 500,000 people, Westchester County. This is not the Bronx. We moved from the Bronx when I was 16, 1957. Now we're in Westchester County, which is a very beautiful area, expensive area, but had poor people too, so it was a complicated district. It was a challenge, but I felt I had to do it because I wanted to do something, as I said before, important. Now, could you imagine me? I'm now maybe a poor kid from the Bronx. Parents had very little education. I have now a hotel room in Washington, 1 block from the Capitol. And I'm getting up in the morning and I'm walking to the Capitol of the United States and I'm saying, oh my God, this is unbelievable. That I know I worked hard, maybe I deserve it, but this is incredible that I am now a US congressman. And I felt the emotion every day I walked into that Capitol, that now I had even a greater responsibility, not just to make money, not just to give a speech for some Sochat. And I said, now I have to do something important for America. I'm the first certified public accountant. The biggest problem for America was the national debt. We're spending money we don't have, we borrow from countries we don't trust, and we're making the debt for the next generation. I said, this is not good. When I was born, my father was saving money for me, not spending my money, not going to the bank to borrow. So that was wrong. But then, later on that year, 1985, my first birthday party as a congressman, September 20th, 45 I was. Now I'm 75, that's 45, 30 years ago. My father and mother come to my party to raise money. Already I'm thinking about the next election. In America, the government doesn't pay for the elections. You have to get from the people. And that's when he was speaking to his youngest sister, Ida, and in Arbresh, and Albanians from Yugoslavia working for my finance chairman, an Irishman, Bill Casson. They overheard him, and they came running to me. Your father is speaking Albanian. We thought you were Italian. No, well, I am Italian, parents born in Italy, but we have this subculture with some different language. I have something to do with Albanians, something to do with Turks. No, you're from Kosovo. You're from Kosovo. You are Bresh. I said, where's Kosovo? Nobody in 1985. First of all, I had a good education. No one taught me about Yugoslavia except where it was on the map. I didn't know it had 6 republics, 2 provinces. It had Albanians, it had this and that. So when I went to the congressman, Bob Dole, and the people I knew, like Tom Lantos,
Përpara se të shkojmë tek suporti që i keni dhënë juve për çështjen e mbar kombëtare shqiptare, kam dëshirë zoti DioGuardi të dinë dhe shikuesit gjatë periudhës që ju keni qenë kongresmen, cilat kanë qenë problemet atëre për politikën amerikane, ato më të rëndësishmet. Sigurisht ju i mbani mend.
the biggest problems back then were the deficit and the debt. Reagan was getting criticized, President Reagan, for spending money and making the debt higher and higher. Not as bad as today, but it started back then. But the biggest foreign problem, foreign policy, was the Cold War with Russia. You remember the meetings with Gorbachev, and you remember when he met him in Reykjavik, he even walked away from the table. Reagan was tough, and basically he said, we need to keep spending money because we need a strong defense. And sure enough, he was right, because he said, if we keep building our defense, Russia is not going to keep up with us. We have better economy than Russia. And sure enough, the Berlin Wall came down, and we ended the Cold War. So that was the most important thing at that time.
Bota ka ndryshuar shumë, zoti DioGuardi, por a jeni ju i kënaqur me ëndrrën tuaj amerikane? A jeni i kënaqur me ecuritë në të gjitha fushat e jetës të Shtetit Bashkuar të Amerikës? Besoj se ju dini se çfarë mund veçoni.
Well, today, the biggest problems are the complications on foreign policy. The Mideast is our biggest problem. The issue of terrorism, when we had 9/11, the buildings came down, and then President George H.W. Bush George W. Bush, we have two Bushes, the George W. Bush, the second one, he did some things that people criticize today because we broke up Iraq. We got rid of Saddam Hussein. We know he wasn't good, but it didn't get better, it got worse. So now, with President Obama, he is blaming President Bush, but President Obama went the other direction. He took the troops out of Iraq too fast and let ISIS come in. There's too much confusion now, and we may now have Iraq into three different areas with the Kurds, with the Sunnis, and the Shiites, so maybe it will not be a state anymore. But you know what? This could be good for the Albanian people, because once we change the borders here, maybe now we have to think about putting Prisheva back into Kosovo. And I'm thinking about this already, okay? The point is that on a foreign policy basis, it's not good when North Korea has a nuclear weapon and they are not logical in the way they think. It's not good when Iran is working to get a nuclear weapon. And you have this big instability now between Israel and the Palestinian people. You have the problems in Syria now with Russia coming in to help. You have now Ukraine, where Russia is saying to NATO, I don't like you, you're too close to where I am, and now they supported the rebels in the Ukraine, mainly Russian troops, and you got instability there. So we need now a new president that's going to have to face these issues and do some important things like President Reagan did. And we're going to have to build, again, our military, because now China has aircraft carriers, Russia, you could see the weapons they're using in Syria, but how are we going to get that money? So now we have to really get rid of the waste in the American government. So I would tell you that, one, on the foreign policy side, it's going to be a challenge for us. Two, on the economic side, the challenge is that our national debt is $19 trillion just on the cash basis, but if you use the right accounting basis that I know about, it's over $70 trillion, and they don't even put it on the books. So we have some big things. People say, Joe, maybe you should run again for Congress. No, I think I can do better as a citizen where I'm independent, and I don't have to listen who wants me to vote for this or for that. I have to make my own decisions, and it gives me now more time to help the Albanian people.
Zoti DioGuardi, unë dëgjova me vëmendje kur ju e folët për familjen, dhe dua të di pse ju keni zgjedhur Partinë Republikane.
Okay, parties for me are not important. What's important is who are the people you're voting for, their character, are they honest, are they smart, do they have the right background? I believe I was that kind of a person. That's why many Democrats voted for me. Otherwise, I would never be a congressman. And the other thing is policy. What are your ideas? Do you know how to deal with these tough issues we face in the foreign policy area and on domestic policy, the economy? And I think I did the right things with those as well. So the choice of the party was just a practical choice. Why? Because the Democrats would never give me the nomination to go. They knew I was not thinking the way they were, so they wouldn't do it. The Republicans knew that I was a good accountant, a good businessman, and at least I had the chance to maybe get the nomination. Before you run, you first have to get the one party to nominate you. And that party that had the opportunity to nominate, they didn't want me either, the Republicans. So I had to fight with 7 other Republicans to win first and then get the nomination and go against the Democrats. So I'm not one of these so-called political hacks where I do favors for the party and they do a favor for me. This is the way it is in the Balkans, in Albania, in Macedonia, in Kosovo. Support my party, I will give you a job. No, I don't like this kind of politics. That to me is not right, and we got to change it. America has it too. It's called patronage. Not as bad as the Balkans, but we have to change that in the Balkans as well.
Faleminderit, zoti DioGuardi. Tani ju e pat vetë, kaloi koha shumë shpejt, duan përsëri 3 këngë, pra muzikë.
Well, I think we'll have to shift to America, and I think when I think of America, I think of Frank Sinatra. You know, my daughter is a songwriter, and when she was only 12, I put her on the Waldorf Astoria for the Columbus Day Parade, and she sang 4 songs. And one of the songs she sang from Frank Sinatra was New York, New York. Start spreading the news. I'm king. That, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I know.
So that would be number 1. And then another song that she sang that was done by Sergio Franchi first, and then Bette Midler was You Are the Air Beneath My Wings. In other words, when you have a good partner, it's easier to fly, to do things. You are the air beneath my wings. The other song that my daughter sang was from The King and I, the play, and that was getting to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to like you, getting to know you like me. Haven't you noticed? Suddenly I'm bright and breezy. See, when you're in love, everything is different. Everything is light. Everything is happy. And that song told me a lot about the positive side of life, getting to know you. I think we all have to know other people. This is a good song.
Kur ka qenë ekonomia më e mirë në Shtetet Bashkuara të Amerikës sipas eksperiencës tuaj, njohurive tuaja që keni në këtë fushë?
I was born 1940, just before World War II. But I was raised after World War II. The economy got very good after World War II because we started to do things that manufactured many things, put many people back to work. There was the troops coming back. We gave them jobs. There was a multiplier effect so that we had a very good economy in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. Even now, the economy's not bad. But you know, between 2008 and 2014, we had not a depression, but we had a recession because people did stupid things. They bought houses with too much debt, and they couldn't then service the debt. The government did stupid things because, oh, everybody should have a house, so they gave the mortgages too fast. And they gave them to people, some didn't have jobs. And later, when they tried to collect, the money wasn't there. So now we are coming back. But now, if you looked at 2015, our growth rate is somewhere between 2 and 3%. The rest of the world, Europe is not doing that well. China was 10, 11, 12. It's now down below 7. But we don't know how they count. They don't use the same system for counting, so we're not sure yet that it compares with us. So I still think that the United States got the best economy, but our danger is that our economy is too much consumption. 70% is people buying things. We don't export enough. We don't manufacture enough. Therefore, the jobs went from manufacturing, especially here in Detroit, automobiles, steel, rubber, it went to China because of the wages. But now some of it is coming back. I still feel very optimistic about America, but we need a good leader. That is coming now. We have a big election coming in 2016. We have many people want to become president. So it's got now a year and a few months to see who is the best possible for this job. I don't know. But I think America is going to do better. But when I was young, the economy was perfect. It allowed my father to save a lot of money, to buy for cash a house, expensive in Westchester County. And he helped me with my education. I have a brother and sister. So we all had a good start. Today, it's difficult for young people to buy houses, difficult to get married and have a family, more difficult than in the past. Is it possible? Yes, they're doing it. But it's not as good as it was before. So we're changing. We're in a transitional period now.
Faleminderit, zoti Joseph DioGuardi. Do të marr një opinion nga jeta juaj, nga eksperienca juaj. Cilin president do të veçonit si më të suksesshëm në drejtimin e Kongresit Amerikan dhe përfaqësimit të gjithë popullit të Amerikës?
For my life, I would have to say President Reagan because of what he did to defeat the Soviet Union in the Cold War, open up the wall in Berlin in 1988, I think it was, yes, the wall came down. I think Reagan gave America a spirit of optimism that we could do things that were possible. So I would say, and then Reagan was the president when I got elected to Congress. And I felt that he favored the Republicans that year in 1984 because 45 members of the House were elected when he was elected in 1984. I was the 46th. No one thought I would be elected. They had to count two times more, and then I won by maybe 2,000 votes out of 300,000.
Janë zgjedhjet presidenciale përsëri këtu në Shtetet Bashkuara të Amerikës. Kë preferoni partinë tuaj republikane, por edhe nga Partia Demokratike, cilët kandidatë duken më të mirë? Ndoshta kjo lidhur dhe me çështjen shqiptare.
We have 1 year, so anything you say now is speculation. We have to see the debates, many more, and we have to see who wins in the states. We have the primaries. You have New Hampshire coming up first, then Iowa, then South Carolina, then Nevada. The polls now are favoring Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump is a businessman. He's a wealthy businessman, using his own money. He's not raising money. People like that because they don't trust money anymore in the United States because people using the money to buy votes and using the money to buy the elections, and that's not good. So the people are very upset. They're saying that Washington is dysfunctional. They're not passing the laws they should. They're spending too much money. We have to borrow from countries we don't like China. So it's opened up a whole new gate for people who don't have the experience of government to say, listen, I'm not part of the establishment. I'm new, like Donald Trump. And now, do I think he's going to be president? It's hard to say. People thought a few months ago he wouldn't last 1 month, and now he's still there. My feeling is that I will vote for a Republican, but if you ask me, of the 17, now I think it's 16 or 15, some dropped out, I would tell you that the person who has the most experience is someone I served with in Congress, and he's a Croatian American. His father was a mailman. His grandfather was a coal miner. He's from Ohio. He's the governor of Ohio twice. He's in his third time. His name is John Kasich, Croatian American. He served with me in the banking committee in Congress, and then he served 18 more years. He was chairman of the budget committee, and then he went on to become the governor of Ohio. He's now in the bottom of the polls, but he was the last one to come in July, and he's now going up, and I will be raising him money in December with Albanians. So that's, I feel, in the long run, he should be the one that will come up the highest when people know who he is. Just like Albanians didn't know who I was until I spent time doing the things that they like. Same thing with John Kasich. On the Democrat side, and by the way, I don't think it's going to be Jeb Bush, the son of, no. I think the people are upset now with these families that, like the Clintons and the Bushes, that have been there. They're saying this is not a dynasty. This is not a monarchy where you pass it on to the next one in the family, even because they have the names. And the same thing with Clinton. I don't think she will win. She has big problems. Nobody trusts her. If you take the polls, the worst poll for her is that more people vote that they don't trust her than trust her. Now, do they like her? Yeah, because Democrats like her. They want to see the first female president. But we don't know. Now you have Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, he says he's a progressive Democratic socialist. He's from Vermont, U.S. Senator, was a congressman, and now 20,000, 30,000 people are coming to see him because he's logical, he's smart, and he's saying America now has too many people at the top that are rich, and they're not sharing it with all the people at the bottom. So we have to change the tax laws, we have to change a lot of policies, and people like that. I will not vote Democrat for sure, but I could see that he is now becoming the popular candidate very early. But I will vote Republican, and my feeling is the person I'll vote for is the person that has experience with the system, because we're going to need that kind of person to solve the problems we have.
Faleminderit, zoti DioGuardi, të shpenzojmë pak kohë këtu për presidentin. Dhe pyetja zoti DioGuardi është lidhur me rëndësinë, a ka rëndësi presidenti i Shtetit Bashkuar të Amerikës për çështjen shqiptare dhe në cilat drejtime, nëse po?
Well, if I look at my experience,
You understand?
yes, why did I accomplish something for the Albanian people? It's not because I got President Reagan to do what I said. It's not because President Bush did it. I went to the Congress. You see, Albanians get confused with America because they are used to a parliament. Parliamentary systems, one party controls everything, just like in Albania. Not in America. In America, the president could be Republican, and the House of Representatives in the Congress could be Democrat, and the Senate could be Republican. Or, like now, both houses in the Congress are Republican, and the president is Democrat. But if you know how to approach these important leaders in the Congress, they are more important than the president. Why? The Congress has control of the money and the budget. And if they want something done, and the State Department says, we don't like it, and if you get people like we did, Joe Biden and Tom Lantos, and we had people like Ben Gilman in the beginning, and Bob Dole, then the State Department gets nervous because they could punish the State Department by saying, now we're going to take the budget away from the State Department, and they don't like that. So you have to know how to lobby. You have to know that you cannot just lobby everybody. You have to lobby the people who are the chairman, the leaders, creators of the committees that are there. And that's what I did when I was in the Congress. That's what I did when I formed the League. That's what I did when I met Shirley. So we have this great history with important people in the Congress.
Po i kisha fjalën a ka rëndësi për çështjen shqiptare presidenti?
I don't think it's that important. I think it's more important that we look at the Congress that makes the budget for what is needed in the world and lobby them and to get the hearings. If you don't have hearings, see, the president and the State Department, they don't have the hearings that we have when we go to Congress so that people know why should we support the Albanian people. Now, can a president have an effect? A president's strong. If a president feels that they want to do something, they can use the office of the president to make big pressure to do it. But that's not the way it's done usually in America. In America, it's usually the people who want something, they lobby for it, and they get powerful people in the Congress to do it. Look at Joe Biden. Look at the hearings I had with Joe Biden when he was the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He was pro-Serb. It took a while before we woke him up to the facts. And then he said in New York in 2002, I owe it to Joe and Shirley for shining a light on the problems of the Albanian people. And then he went on to do some important things. Without the pressure from Joe Biden, and without the pressure from people like Tom Lantos and Henry Hyde, Clinton would never have dropped the bombs on Belgrade. He was reluctant to do it, but we lobbied so hard and made so many things in the media. You showed the film, you saw me on TV all the time, that then we pushed Clinton to drop the bombs because Milosevic, we said, will not quit, and he lies. And he's killing too many Albanians. You want another Srebrenica? Srebrenica, he put in one day 7,000 men and boys in the barn, and they shot them. You're going to have another Srebrenica in Kosovo. In fact, just last week I told Dana Rohrabacher, we have Srebrenica today. You know where it is? In Preševa, but it's a long time, Srebrenica, not on one day. The Serbs want to just take their time, and they will deprive the Albanians of everything till they leave. So I'm making this case now by calling Preševa the new Srebrenica. Don't let it happen. Stop the Serbs from taking the spirit away from the Albanian people of Preševa. So I will tell you, president's important, but my experience is the Congress is more important.
Shumë faleminderit. Tani edhe koha përsëri për 3 këngë të tjera.
You want 3 more songs?
3 more songs.
Well, now I have to go to my Italian-American background. And when I think of Italian-American, I think of Dean Martin. Well, Frank Sinatra too, but Dean Martin, Tony Bennett, Vic Damone, and Dean Martin is my favorite. So there's a song that he sang on an evening in Rome. Now, I just had lunch with some Kosovars, and I said, when you hear the music of the Kosovars and the Albanians, it's about Lufta, the war, Flamorde, the flag. When you go and you hear the Italian music, it's about amore, it's about love. So we have 2 different kinds. So I like Dean Martin had the song on an evening in Roma, and I will sing some for you. Come belle c'è la luna brille, strette, strette corabutto belle fastigia, sotto il cielo di Roma. On an evening in Rome. Do they take him for espresso? Yeah, I guess so. On each lover's arm, a girl I wish I knew. On an evening in Roma, though there's grinning and mandolining in sunny Italy, the beginning has just begun when the sun goes down. So please meet me at the plaza near my casa. You are only one. The girl.
Thank you.
I am one too few. So to Cielo di Roma. So I think it's good to know that the Italians are singing about love while the Albanians are singing about guns and war and flags. It's a different experience. I have both. I have the Italian and I have the Albanian.
Jo, edhe shqiptarët kanë muzikë të bukur.
Well, I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. But when I'm at the table with the Albanians, they want to be talking about how they're going to win the war against the Serbs. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. I was a new accountant in Chicago, and the most popular song was San Francisco. He sang the song, My Heart is in San Francisco. Beautiful, beautiful song. And then from there, let's see, what other play? There's a play in 1961 called How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. It had a Pulitzer Prize. And there was a song in there about the young man who wanted to become high, and he was always trying to do things to impress the boss. And he one time went into the bathroom to sing this song about how he believed in himself. And he said, he looked in the mirror, and he says, I believe in you. You've got the cool, clear mind of a seeker of wisdom and truth, with the slam, tang, bang, reminiscent of gin and vermouth. I believe in you. Yes, I believe in you. And he's looking at himself in the mirror to get his confidence up to win. And I always like that song.
Kthehemi përsëri në bisedë, shikues të nderuar, jemi me zotin Joseph DioGuardi. Kemi folur pjesën e parë për politikën, jetën amerikane në përgjithësi, jetën e tij, dhe konkretisht do të kthehemi në pikën më të rëndësishme të emisionit Thank You, aty ku do të flasim për kontributin 25 vjeçar të Floririt Albëresh, pra të Joseph DioGuardit, që ka bërë për çështjen mbarkombëtare shqiptare. Do t'i marrim me radhë ato dhe besoj se do të merrni informacion jashtëzakonisht me vlerë dhe profesional nga zoti Joseph DioGuardi. Unë kam zgjedhur një pyetje natyrshme, si u lidhet me jetën, me politikën, me hallet që ka populli shqiptar në Ballkan, dhe që juve i dhatë një pjesë të jetës tuaj për çështjen shqiptare.
Well, first, to correct a little bit, it's 29 years, 4 years as a congressman, 25 years as an independent advocate for the Albanian people with the Liga Qytetare Shqiptare Americana, and with that 20 years with Shirley. So 29 years for me, 25 years as after Congress, but in the 25 years, 20 with Shirley because I met her in 1994. Well, once the Albanians found out that my family spoke Albanian, and they started coming to my office, they started coming to my house in Washington, in New York, giving me all the things that were being done against the Albanian people in Yugoslavia at that point. They weren't talking just Kosovo. They were saying, look what this place, Yugoslavia, is doing to Albanians in Kosovo, in Montenegro, in Macedonia. These were all republics then. Even in Serbia, you know, it had Prisheva. I was reading this and I'm saying to myself, this is not good. How could they treat these people worse than we treat the African Americans in America? And then the State Department has what they call country reports. So I didn't just believe the Albanians. I went to the country reports from before I went to Congress and then just after each year to see what they're saying about Yugoslavia. And sure enough, in the country reports are all these bad things that were being done. How many Albanians are in jail? More Albanians in jail in Yugoslavia than anybody else. How many were being, you know, even imprisoned in a very bad way and tortured. Then I found out that during the period, see, Tito died in 1981. I wasn't a congressman until 1985, so I had to learn this history. And then Tito kept the peace, the balance between the Albanians and the Slavs. But then after he died, the Serbs started to make big trouble for the Albanians, and the Albanians started the student demonstrations, riots in 1981. By the time I got to Congress, 600,000 Albanians out of 1,800,000 in Kosovo, and those are the numbers I got, were put through the police processes. This is how bad it was. I started to study, I started to research, I started to get the facts, and then in 1987, guess what happens? Milosevic becomes the president of Serbia and the president of the Communist Party. And now he's talking only for Kosovo. So now he has this idea that maybe Kosovo will never become a republic, and we were saying Kosovo Republic because Kosovo was just a province. It wasn't yet, even though it had its own parliament. So I was always saying Kosovo Republic, Kosovo Republic. Then in 1989, he moves in with the tanks on the streets of Pristina, and he tells the Convendi, the leaders of the Convendi, that he is now going to take the power, no more parliament for the Albanian people. That's when I started to become very aggressive, very active. So you might say I was at the right place at the right time because now Milosevic comes 1987 and I am prepared to do something. Now it took from 1987 to 2002 to get him into The Hague. That's a lot of time, but we accomplished that.
Faleminderit, unë për Kosovën kam një pyetje të veçantë dhe ajo është natyrshme sepse ju keni kushtuar lidhjet tuaj për Kosovën dhe unë do të bëja pyetjen Kosova dhe kontributi I Joseph DioGuardit.
I had to shift from Albanians in Yugoslavia to Albanians in Kosovo because that's where the most negative things were being done against the Albanian people. The first contribution was in 1989, when I started the League, to go to Belgrade and then to go to Kosovo, to see for myself and take pictures to bring back to Lantos of the tanks on the street. Lantos was a Jewish congressman. He was saved from the Nazi Holocaust, so he knew how bad things could be. He said, go and take the pictures, come back, and if you could show me the pictures of what they're doing to the Albanians, I will then go with you to Pristina. We didn't think about Albania, but we went in May to Pristina. Why? To send a signal to Slobodan Milosevic that we are watching now everything he's doing, to slow him down because he was doing too much too fast. But at that time, Lantos had told me that if I ever get the chance to go to Albania, my dream is to go to Albania because I'm born in Hungary. I've been all over the world. Nobody goes to Albania. It's like North Korea. And then I get a call from Bashkin Pataka in New York. He's the ambassador to the United Nations from Albania. We would like you to come to Albania, but we want you to come alone. We want to honor you, Mr. DioGuardi. You are now a hero for the Albanian people. But some smart Albanians told me, do never go there because they control the press. They will make it look like you're supporting communism, and then you are finished in America. So I said, I will come, but only if I bring Congressman Lantos. They said, no, it's not proper. And I said, well, I'm then going to Kosovo. No, you have to come here first. I said, no, too late. I'm going to Kosovo. If you want me to come to Albania, now I have to come with Lantos, and then I will drive from Prizren down. Oh, you can't go that way, because then it's 10 hours to go from Kukis all the way down to Tirana. But they agreed. They drove up, and they took me down. So what I did was I made this trip, not only to Pristina, to tell with Lantos, Milosevic, we're watching you. But then I did the same with Ramizalia to say, hey, the Berlin Wall came down. Communism is gone, and you still have it here. When are you going to let democracy come? 1 month after Lantos and I was there, they ran to the embassies. They ran on the ship to go to Italy. So I accomplished a lot. I opened up the eyes of the West, but I opened up the eyes of the Albanian people that someone, Joe DioGuardi, was now speaking for them like nobody else had. So that was important. And then what did I do in 1990? I brought Rogova and 12 academics, intellectuals, no Levizia Demokrata, no party in Kosovo. The party LDK, Ledeka, came in 1991-92. And we brought them in for the big hearing, 5 hours in Washington, for the Congressional Human Rights Caucus, Senate and the House together. Lantos, DioGuardi, and you saw how Milosevic sent all the Serbian beards to testify, but we won. And you showed last night the Serbian woman, Congresswoman Helen Dilic-Bentley, how she was asking me the questions, and I had to answer them quick. And then we took them to New York and had the big dinner, Dak Mav in the Sheraton in April. So this was the beginning of waking up the Albanians in America, that we now had something that was a good foundation that could free the Albanians of Kosovo, bring democracy to Albania, and then deal with also the human rights violations against Albanians in Montenegro, in Macedonia, in northern Greece. The Cham issue, never discussed. I raised the Cham.
Më falë, kam pyetje të veçanta për këto treva, por ju keni pasur një luftë drejt për drejt me Milosevicin. Si ka qenë historia e vërtetë?
Milosevic did not come to Pristina. He was not there when I was there. But thousands of Albanians came in front of the Grand Hotel. All the cameras were there, and they saw the Serbian police beating up the students and the people, and even using the rubber bullets. And Congressman Lantos saw it, and he turned to me and said, this is like the Warsaw Ghetto. This is like what the Nazis did in World War II. It's very important that he saw that. So I never had any discussion with Milosevic. All I know is, after that incident in Pristina, the press in Serbia, Belgrade, Borba, Politica, he had interviews. And they were saying to Milosevic, what do you think of this former congressman Joe DioGuardi, and he was going, I don't care for this former congressman and his Albanian doormen, busboys, waiters in New York. In other words, I'm bigger than that. I don't have to worry. And then 2002, he's in The Hague blaming me for him coming there, that I satanized him. I didn't satanize him. I told the truth. He was a war criminal. He killed too many people. And he had his compatriots in Bosnia doing the same thing in Srebrenica. So we never had one discussion. He never would talk to me. He's the leader of a country, very arrogant, a dictator. He had no need to talk to me. But I spoke to him through the media, and I mentioned him all the time, how bad he was. And I had 28 different media programs, CNN, NBC, BBC, constantly telling the world who Milosevic was as a war criminal, and he had to be put in The Hague. And then it happened. So I think I did my job as a citizen. Don't forget, I'm not elected. I was only an independent advocate for the Albanian people, and many of them did support me. Not enough, but I used my Jewish friends and my Italian friends to raise money when the Albanians said we can't raise that much money. So I was able to do it.
Zoti DioGuardi, juve keni bashkëpunuar me miqtë tuaj këtu në Amerikë, por keni bashkëpunuar dhe me politikanët dhe aktivistat që kanë qenë në vetëlindje, veçanërisht Kosovë. Cilat kanë qenë marrëdhëniet tuaja me LDK-n dhe me presidentin Rugova?
I never supported a party. The only reason I supported in the beginning President Rugova is that he was chosen by the people of Kosovo. It's not me to choose a leader. So what I had to do, my responsibility, was to at least bring him to Washington for the first time so people could see who he was. But not only him, I wanted them to know that there were other intellectuals like Recep Çoşa, like Idris Ayeti, Mark Krasniqi, Lulieta Pula, Gazman Pula, Hayrullah Garani, 12 others. So I wanted them to see that the people that were potentially the political leaders of Kosovo were very smart, because the Serbs were saying that Albanians are terrorists, Albanians are ignorant, Albanians are farmers, you know, and they didn't know that they had this intellectual class. So I did my best to bring them to the hearing, 5 hours, April 24th, 1990, and then to the Sheraton Hotel, April 28th, and then I brought them back again in September, and I did all I could. I went there again. Well, I went with Lantos, but then Milosevic passed a law in Belgrade banning me for 5 years not to come back. So then I started working in Macedonia. The point is that I didn't see myself supporting a party. I don't believe in supporting any parties. I believe in giving the people the maximum environment to find a leader that they could trust and that they could vote for. Unfortunately today, there's too many corrupt leaders that are not doing what I did. They're not allowing the system to find the leaders. They're trying to use money, and they're trying to use the parties to determine how they can control the people. And then too many of them are making the coalitions with the Slavs, like in Montenegro and Macedonia. And it's not working because the Slavs are not giving the Albanians anything. Look at Preševa. So I am reminding the Albanian people that we cannot be seduced. We cannot be tricked. We cannot take, Milosevic got away from 1987 to 2002. You know how many years that is? 15 years. Many people died. Why? He lied. America thinks that when you're a leader, you don't lie. No, the Russians lie. The Slavs lied. Communists lie. And that's the way they are. A book was written by the head of the CIA in America. His name was FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, about the Communist Party. And you know what the name of the book was? Masters of Deceit. They will say anything to accomplish what they want. This is not the way we do democracy in America. So I'm happy that I took the tough way, not the easy way. The easy way is, oh, let me support that party. Maybe they'll give me money. No, I take no money from foreign countries, no money from political parties. I take money, and not from me and Shirley, because we don't get paid, to give to the system and to use to travel back and forth, because I believe in being independent. not to be controlled. And that's the way Albanians have to now start thinking.
Faleminderit, edhe koha për tre këngë tjera.
You know, I'm not a musician.
Oh, I know.
There's a lot of, but I like music. Thank God I like music because I can remember. Then I would say, let's go to the light songs that were in Broadway. You had, why I'm saying this, because my daughter, when she was young, she used to memorize these songs and she used to sing them. So we had a play in 1987 called, 1977 called Annie. Annie.
Annie.
And there was a beautiful song in Annie called Tomorrow. Tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you tomorrow, you're only one day away. The optimism, she was in an orphanage. So I would say that was a good one. Then you had another one about the young teenagers called Grease. And I remember 1978, you had Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta. They were young at the time. And there was a beautiful song when they fell in love, Hopelessly Devoted to You. And I'm not going to sing it, but my daughter sings it well. I think that's another nice one. And then in going back to the plays, I would say one of the plays that was great was by Gershwin, and it was Showboat, about how the black people lived under slavery and after slavery in America after. And there was a beautiful song that the old black man sang with a deep voice called Old Man River, that old man river, it just keeps flowing and da da da. So Old Man River, I think, is another to show the pain of the black people. Reminds me of the pain of the Albanian people, what they had to suffer under the Serbs, almost like slavery.
Shikues nderuar, kthehemi përsëri me zotin Joseph DioGuardi në bisedë. Do të bëj një pyetje e cila ka të bëjë me jetën e personave që kanë dhënë dhe vazhdojnë të japin kontribute këtu në Shtetet e Bashkuara të Amerikës. Kanë ndryshuar rrethanat, por para shumë viteve nuk kanë qenë kështu si janë sot.
It's understandable that if you're born in the Balkans, you might be afraid to talk against the government, because we saw, take Enver Hoxha, if you said something wrong, somebody would report you. I was not raised that way. I was raised in America to think that anything is possible, and I say that my optimism and my upbringing was such that I was never afraid to do something I believed in. And I always felt that if you believe in something, that you owe it not only to yourself, but you owe it to the people that need you to speak up. And that's what I have done. But maybe the better question was not going on TV. Why did I go to Belgrade? Why did I go to Kosovo when the tanks were on the street? Why did I go to Macedonia for the referendum in 1992 for the autonomy when I knew the police, they even arrested me? Because I felt maybe like Martin Luther King. Why did Martin Luther King go across the bridge when they said, if you do this, the dogs will, we have the dogs after you and you could be shot? Because he had a dream. When you have a dream, and the Albanians gave me a dream. I was just a businessman, I get elected to Congress, and now I find out I have this beautiful Albanian history, maybe for several thousand years, even in Roman times, but just going back to the 15th century with George Castriati, I was so moved by this history that I started to dream about doing something important for the Albanian people. When you have a dream, as someone said, you can shoot the dreamer, but you cannot kill the dream. So if I do the right things, even if someone does something to me, someone else is going to continue doing that. And, you know, maybe it's part of my religion too. I am a Roman Catholic, and Catholics are people who understand that even when things are tough, you have to sacrifice. And I'm someone who believes that you can't sacrifice for nothing. You got to sacrifice for something big. And if I can continue my work to free the Albanian people from this legacy of World War I, where they were unfairly divided, put into 6 different countries, and give them this sense that they are a nation, Komtar, which is what I'm trying to do, even if we can't change the borders. No one says it's going to be easy, but the borders are going to mean nothing in 20 years. Europe is going to be together. It's going to be a different kind of place. So let's now work with the Albanian people to let them think like a nation. They have the same language. They're on the Albanian ancestral lands, same traditions, same culture. So why shouldn't 7 million Albanians, even though they're in Macedonia, Prisheva, Montenegro, Northern Greece, Kosovo, Albania, think like a nation? They are one nation. So that's my next challenge. So I'm dreaming. I continue to dream. So you could shoot the dreamer, and if they do, in my case, they better have a good shot, because I'm moving very fast.
Unë të falenderoj shumë për mesazhin e mirë që solle, kuptim plot dhe veçanërisht për brezat e rinj.
And I should say one more thing. I mentioned Martin Luther King. Remember what he said. If there is injustice anywhere, justice is threatened everywhere. So if you don't stop injustice here, then it moves all around. So I think I'm stopping it for the Albanians, and hopefully people will benefit from that.
Faleminderit, Zoti Joseph DioGuardi. Juve keni qenë i pari që e keni mbrojtur në Kongresin Amerikan UÇK-n si një organizim të vërtet ushtarake të popullit dhe të ndershme nga abuzimet e tjera. Cili ka qenë roli i saj?
UÇK was important because it was from the people that this army was developed. This was not a state-run army. This was a citizen defense force, much like 240 years ago in America when we had the army of George Washington, the Minutemen, then the army of George Washington going against King George III of England, the biggest power in the world. You had the colonial army, and we became independent. UÇK was a defense force because Milosevic was killing the people in their homes. So I needed to defend and raise this issue, and it was Shirley in a hearing in 1998 when Ambassador Gelbart says that UÇK was a terrorist organization. It wasn't. That was not correct, and we corrected him. Mr. Gilman made sure we gave him the information to correct him, and he said that was a mistake because it was not listed as a terrorist organization. So we had to do a lot to make sure that the Serbian propaganda machine did not criminalize the UÇK, because we thought it was from the people that this army came to protect the people. Now, I hope that I have Albanians to follow me. And I think many times what George Castriati said, that when he had a lot of people to support him, what did he say in Albanian? And I saw it in the room last night in St. Paul's Church. 3.000 meter me shok shumë. So I need a lot of friends so I could feel even stronger and braver to do what I am doing.
Faleminderit për këto shpjegime kuptimplote edhe për këto mesazhe që sillni në këtë bisedë. Shumë njerëz, edhe veçanërisht brezat e rinj, janë skeptik ose nuk e kuptojnë ashtu si duhet situatën që ka ndodhur përpara për çështjen e Kosovës. Në çfarë raport qëndron kontributi i diasporës dhe makina e shtetit amerikan që mori përsipër për të sjellë pavarësinë e Kosovës, pasi shpesh shumë njerëz thonë se këtë e ka bërë shteti amerikan, që vërtet e ka bërë, por mohojnë ose nuk e vlerësojnë rolin e diasporës që i ka dhënë informacione shtetit amerikan për genocidin, për reprezalen, për dhunën që kishin shqiptarët dhe mohimin e drejtave që kishin shqiptarët në Kosovë.
The message is that the State Department does not get everything right. We've had many bad policies that we had to correct. And I saw the policy that was anti-Albanian when I was in Congress as wrong, because they were listening to Tanjug in Belgrade, and nobody was speaking for the Albanian people until I discovered that I had this Albanian roots, and the Albanian people then educated me about how bad they were being treated. Here I am, activist in the 1980s for the black people in South Africa, apartheid. I was against, Reagan. He wanted sanctions. He said he was against the sanctions, but I was saying to myself, that we need the sanctions to save these black people in South Africa. The Soviet Jews were being persecuted. I was making sure that we brought that message to the American people, that the Soviet Union had to not hurt those Soviet Jews who wanted freedom. So it was natural for me to bring the issue of the Albanian people to the Congress, because we were already doing all these things to educate the State Department. So I have to end by saying, you can't assume that everything that the government says and everything that the State Department does is correct. Maybe sometimes they get the wrong information. That's the difference between communism and American democracy. Because in democracy, it's we the people. That's where our Constitution starts. It doesn't start we the government or we the party. It's we the people. So the whole basis of our system here is the voice of the people. So that if you're in Congress or you're out of Congress, you can play a role. And more citizens, even though they don't have the title, can be active. Look at me, I have no title. I'm an activist, I'm an advocate, and I'm making things happen because I am talking to the people in Congress that are powerful, and they're saying, let's have a hearing. And then people get the facts, and they're saying, maybe DioGuardi's right. Maybe we have to change this position. And now we're going to talk more about Preševa, and they're going to see that the Serbs are lying. The worst people in Europe being treated right now are the people of Preševa. They don't have the education in their language. There's no university there for them. The books are at the border in Albanian. They don't let them through. No jobs. And they want all the rights for the Serbs in northern Kosovo. And Taci wants to give it to them. This is wrong. And you will see me and Shirley speak out against that to wake up the State Department. This is not right.
Faleminderit shumë, Joseph DioGuardi. Një nga mekanizmat e fuqishëm që ju keni përdorur për të ndihmuar në aktivitetin tuaj mbar kombëtar shqiptar ka qenë dhe Liga Qytetare Amerikano-Shqiptare që ju keni krijuar 25 vjet më parë. Në çfarë thana është krijuar Liga dhe çka ka qenë roli i saj në këtë kontribut që ju keni dhënë për çështjen shqiptare?
Well, you need to have support in America. You cannot do everything if people do not support you. How do they support you? Well, when we want to make a big statement in Washington, we could have a protest with 10,000 people like we did in 1990 and later for Učica. In fact, it was a little bit later. I think it was 1995, 96, 97. We had these big protests. But you also need to have financial support because you have to travel. For me to go to Europe, I need to raise the money. The government doesn't give me the money to travel to Europe, to go to Kosovo. I have to go to the Albanian people. Do you want me and Shirley to see what's going there and to make some statement in the press, the Albanian press? Of course they do. So we have to raise the money for that. This is what we call non-governmental organizations, NGOs. There are many in America. This is the basis of democracy in America. Alexis de Tocqueville saw it in 1836. He wrote the book, Democracy in America. He was impressed not with the government, not with the economy. He was impressed with the people organizing in the communities as activists to change things at the local level. And that's what I'm doing today, and that is permitted in America. But you have forms that you got to file. If you take money from the people, you got to make those documents so that they know what you're doing. And we do this. And thank God I'm an accountant and I do all this.
Juve keni qenë këtu në Michigan, keni marrë pjesë në festimin e komunitetit shqiptar që ju bëri juve me rastin e ditëlindjes tuaj dhe të bashkëshortes tuaj, po njëkohësisht edhe me rastin e marrjes të çmimit Thank You, po ashtu edhe të 25 vjetorit të Ligës. Cili është mendimi juaj për degën e Ligës së Michiganit?
It was wonderful. It was so good to see so many people come out in St. Paul's Hall yesterday for my birthday, 75, Shirley's birthday, 65, and the anniversary of the League, 25. It shows me that the people do care about what I am doing for the Albanian people, even though I don't have a title, I'm not a congressman, I'm not a senator, I'm not in the State Department, but they came out because they believe that what I did was important enough that maybe I can do more. And I was very happy, first, to get the thank you for my birthday and for Shirley's birthday. and for the anniversary of the league, and I appreciated the vote that you took that says that I was the #3 Albanian, and that's beautiful. So I can only say that this gave me more inspiration to do now even better, and our chapter here is a effective chapter because we have 2 board members. We have Marsha Culaj, Zefter Avanaj, and we have a new board member coming on, Fran Gjokaj. And these 3 people are the ones that did, mainly Fran and Marish, but we have a lot of support also from Zefter Avanaj. And I think now that people saw what you did with the speech with Milosevic and DioGuardi, and they saw what I did at the hearing with the Serbian Congresswoman, Helen Delic-Bentley, and they heard the good speeches from the 2 priests, from Marish, from the new ambassador from Albania, Mrs. Filareta Faba. She must have married, he must have been Jewish way back because he doesn't, he's Albanian, but he has this name that's mainly a Jewish name. And all those great speeches, and Anton Lajčaj did a great job. You did a wonderful job. So I am very pleased, and I'm very proud of the Albanian people. Unë jam flana që jam shqiptaro Amerikan.
Zonja dhe zotrin, si që pat në pika të shkurtra një dokumentar, pra cili përshkroi pak a shumë biografinë dhe veprimtarinë e të nderuarit ish kongresist Joseph DioGuardi. Nga anketa që është organizuar nga televizioni shqiptarëve të Amerikës për çmimin e titulluar Thank You, kanë nderin të ftoj drejtorin e televiziorit të shqiptarëve të Amerikës, zotëri Ganivila, për ta shpjeguar rëndësinë dhe kriteret e ndarjes të këtij çmimi. Pra përpajrësh ftoj drejtorin e televizionit të shqiptarëve të Amerikës, zotëri Ganivila.
Mi mbrëma, me si keni ardhur gjithë, do të përshëndes veçanërisht zotin Joseph DioGuardi dhe ambasadorën e Republikës Shqipërisë për prezencën këtu. Emri i çmimit Thank You është një emër i thjesht, por i vetëvullnetshëm nga shpirti, nga zemra që del për të gjithë, është emri, është fjala më e përdorur në të gjitha ambientet familjare, shpirtërore e kudo. Shqiptarët janë larguar nga vendlindja për arsye që tashmë dihen. Kudo që kanë shkuar, nuk e kanë harruar vendlindjen, janë lidhur me to në forma e mënyra të ndryshme, kanë ndihmuar familjen. Por ajo që është e rëndësishme është sepse ka dhe shqiptar që janë emigracion, që kanë pasur dhe kanë një kontribut jashtëzakonisht të rrallë, një kontribut ku kanë sakrifikuar shumë ekonomikisht, intelektualikisht, po ashtu kanë sakrifikuar, kanë marrë parasysh edhe jetën, pasi kemi shumë raste në diasporë që këto kanë ndodhur. Me gjithë vullnetin e mirë që shteti shqiptar ka treguar për diasporën, nuk ka arritur atë që duhet. Të gjithë jeni dëshimtar, edhe ambasadorja besoj se është dakord me mua, nuk ka një statistikë të saktë se sa bashkëdhetar nga Shqipëria, nga treva shqiptare janë në Shtetet e Bashkuara të Amerikës. Por ajo që është me keqe, nuk ka një statistikë të veçantë edhe për vlerat e veçanta që janë diasporë, të cilat janë burime të falura për vendlindjen, por ato nuk shfrytëzohen. Ka raste që janë vlerësuar në emigracion diaspora, por ajo ka ndodhur me një këndvështrim jo fort viziv të drejtë. Kam parë majtas, kam parë djathtas, kam parë të kaluarën, e jo përpara me një vizion për të ardhmen. Ndaj televizori shqiptarëve të Amerikës, duke parë këtë vakum, duke parë këtë boshlek, në vitin 2012, me rastin e 100 vjetorit, neve morëm iniciativën për shpalljen e një ankete, e cila është një anketë që u realizua nëpërmjet gjithë mjeteve elektronike të televizorit tonë. Është një pjesëmarrje e zakonisht e madhe, jo vetëm këtu në Amerikë, por në tërë trevat shqiptare kanë votuar dhe fillimisht u përzgjodhen 100 bashkëdhetar që kanë dhënë kontribut këtu në Shtetet e Bashkuara të Amerikës, përjashto 2 veganët, Nolin dhe Konicën, të cilët nuk kanë hyrë në votim pasi obelisku i tyre është i përjetshëm. Në raundën e dytë, për të nxjerrë 10 personalitetet më të rëndësishme të diasporës, morën pjesë të 100 personat dhe ajo që ka mua më gëzon është fakti se u ruajt ajo rënditja e 100-ës që ishte. Pra, ato 10 e parë që kishte fituar pikët maksimale në kur ishin 100 pjesëmarrës, u ruajt deri në fund. Jam shumë krenar, pasi dhe mua më bëjnë shumë vite këtu në Michigan, në këtë dhjeqe, kanë fituar edhe bashkëdhetar nga Michigani, të cilët së shpeti televizorët shqiptarëve të Amerikës do të realizojnë ceremoninë për ndarjen e çmimeve. Por atë që është sot edhe i njeriu kryesor, nuk lidhet çmimi thank you me ditëlindjen, megjithëse unë ja uroj ditëlindjen zotit Joseph dhe Shirleyt, por sot unë kam nderin, kënaqësinë që të shpall në emër të stafit televizor shqiptar të Amerikës, në emër të anketës, falenderoj dhe stafin që ka bërë një punë shumë profesionale, po njëkohësisht duke ardhur edhe një formë e re. Pra, nuk është kjo një çmim që i jepet Joseph DioGuardit nga kryeministri apo nga presidenti. Është një çmim që i jepet nga bashkëdhetarët tanë për kontributin e tij, për të cilën mendoj që zoti Anton Laçaj do ta lexoj dhe e ftoj Antonin ta lexoj, pasi njëkohësisht do më falni, kam emocione, por jam edhe shumë i kënaqur dhe shumë me fat që çmimin thank you Joseph DioGuardit ju ndoqët materialin, ato janë pjesë shumë të shkurtra. Aktiviteti i tij është vegan, është shumë i madh. Për ju, Antoni.
Televizioni i shqiptarëve të Amerikës i jep çmimin e parë thank you zotëri Joseph DioGuardi për punën dhe përpjekjet e jashtëzakonshme 25 vjeçare të tij në llomën e përfaqësuesve të administratës amerikane, për parashtrimet, deklaratat e vazhdueshme në Kongres për kauzat e mallë të kombit shqiptar, veçanërisht për pavarësinë e Kosovës, i akuzuar drejt për drejt nga Miloševići si armiku më i madh i Serbisë, për krijimin e drejtimin e Ligës Qytetare Shqiptare Amerikane dhe lobimin e saj 25 vjeçar, për debatet në stacionet prestigjioze televizive, për demonstratat, protestat, analiza studimore për përpjekjet dhe demokratizimin e Shqipërisë, për mbrojtjen e të drejtave të shqiptarëve në luginën e Prishevës, Maqedoni, Maltëzi, Çamri, duke u bërë figurë më shquar e diasporës shqiptare me nismat për zgjidhjen e çështjes mbarkombëtare shqiptare. 18 tetor 2011. Televizioni shqiptarëve të Amerikës, drejtor Gani Vila.
Dhe tani ftoj zotin Joseph DioGuardi, Floririn Albrecht të marrë çmimin.
I am so pleased to be here, and I have to make my remarks short because my name has been mentioned so many times, it's just hard to believe. I really am proud that you could put this many people in the room. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it, okay? Unë jam krenat që jam shqiptaro Amerikan. And I am so pleased to be here. I could say it in Albanian, unë jam lumtë shumë që jam me ju sot.
Faleminderit, kam një pyetje të veçantë që i dedikohet një pune 4 vjeçare që televizori shqiptar të Amerikës ka bërë në një formë tjetër, pra në një formë shumë demokratike, duke i ftuar gjithë bashkëtarët tanë kudo që kanë votuar në online për çmimin thank you dhe juve keni fituar çmimin e parë në këtë anketë. Cili është mendimi juaj dhe si u ndjet kur ju morët çmimin e parë thank you në anketën e bërë nga televizori shqiptar të Amerikës?
It's a great honor to have so many people think I did the right job. Because I hear so many people saying, I'm not doing enough, maybe I did something wrong. No, it's wonderful that you did this vote across America. Albanians think that I am now someone who should be remembered for what I have done. And I believe it's important to be remembered and to be recognized because it gives me the courage to do more for the Albanian people. And I have my own heroes like Fanoli when he said, Mojnan moski frike se ke gjemte në Amerikë. I can never forget those words, and I said them in Pristina when I went there in 1990. So I'm happy now to be considered in the same way that other Albanian heroes are being considered, and I thank you for your work in making this referendum a reality, so that over 4 years you have now a representative number of people. Because if you just had a few people vote, it's not important. But if a lot of people vote, then it has to be true. And I feel very honored that the Albanian people think I did a good job.
Faleminderit, zoti DioGuardi. Shqiptarët shuhen për të ndihmuar njerëzit që janë në nevojë, njerëzit që kanë probleme të ndryshme, ju gjenden afër, por nuk shuhen kaq sa si duhet për të suportuar njerëzit e suksesshëm. Cili është komenti juaj?
What you're saying is that they are generous with their charitable contributions for people who need their help, but they may not be supporting enough people who want to take a lead in helping them change foreign policy and things that are against the Albanian people. Well, I think you have to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they are too distracted by their problems in their families and they don't see it as important. But then you have to understand there is a lot of egoism in the Albanian world. Everybody wants to think that they are a leader. It's a human thing. And some of them even form societas, not many members, but they have a name on an organization. The only way to counteract that is for people like me to do better, to do more, to wake people up like we did last night at the St. Paul's Church. When you have 500 people or more in the room and you play the video with what I did for 25 years, and they heard those great speeches, and even from Father Belushi, from our Bresh, the nice things, then the other people say, you know, maybe I got to support this league and Joe DioGuardi and Shirley because they're doing the right thing. So the answer is not to worry about why some people don't support, but to do a better job so that the people wake up and support you. That's the idea.
Faleminderit zoti Joseph DioGuardi. Unë ju falenderoj juve që keni dhënë një kontribut jashtëzakonisht të madh të shquar për çështjen mbar kombëtare shqiptare. Së pari falenderoj babain tuaj i cili ju ka trashëguar tek juve genin shqiptar. Kjo është shumë e rëndësishme edhe për ne shqiptarët që jemi sot që kështu të vazhdojmë në breza. Ndaj është një mesazh shumë kuptiplot. E unë i them falenderit që babai juaj të ka dëguar kështu, po njëkohësisht unë ju falenderoj për të gjithë aktivitetin tuaj që keni dhënë për mbar çështjen kombëtare shqiptare. Falenderit edhe në emër të shikuesve, falenderit të gjithë shqiptarëve të cilët kanë dëshirë t'ju thonë thank you, pasi gjithë shqiptarët, ata që kanë marrë pjesë në votime, ja kanë dhënë votën juve për të thënë thank you, Joseph DioGuardi. Unë isha shumë i privilegjuar që u kisha sot në bisedë. Televizorit shqiptar të Amerikës ju shtua një vlerë me prezencën tuaj. Ju uroj jetë gjatë dhe të shikojmë përsëri në biseda të tjera.
If I were to think about one important thing to say to the Albanian people, it would be, remember how much suffering has been done. 425 years of Ottoman occupation. What happened with communism, not only in Yugoslavia, but worse in Albania. The actions of the adversaries of the Albanian people the Greeks, and the Serbs. So many things have happened, and yet the Albanian people are strong people. They are still standing after all these years, still speaking the same language, still living on their ancestral lands, same culture, same traditions. They have the largest families in Europe, which means they have confidence. Most of Europe now has maybe 1 child, 2 childs, Albanians 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even here in America. That means that you're looking to the future. So now you have to be, I'd say, trusting people like me and Shirley to finish the job we started, because it's important for the young people who are now getting educated to have the maximum opportunity to fulfill their potential as human beings, to have their own families. And it's going to take a lot to do it, because we don't see help coming from the governments that control the 7 million Albanians in the Balkans. So you have to rely on America, and hopefully me and Shirley, to be the independent spokesmen, advocates for the Albanian people to make things better for you and your families here in America and in the Balkans. So I have a new challenge the next 25 years. My mother lived till 94. I'm only 75. That means I should have 20 more years. So 20 more years, I'm willing to work for the Albanian people with no titles. You don't have to pay me, but I need your support. 3 meter me shok shumë. That is what Skanderbeg said, and that's what I'm telling you now. I want to see a lot of people. I don't want to be a leader and turn around, there's nobody there. You can't be a leader without an army. You can't be a general without an army. But if you support me and Shirley morally, and you support the things we're asking you to do, the congressman that I know can help the Albanian people, we will do even more in the next 25 years than we did in the last 25 years. Faleminderit, Notaramia, Miru Pafshim.